So, in these past couple of days, we've been talking about balance and how Ubisoft is handling the game, and basically how Ubi has been doing a terrible job at making sure all the heroes in the game are fun to play as and against, while still being able to hold their own. We've seen a bunch of content creators come out and say that they're tired of the way the game's being handled and expressing their frustration with the development team. On top of that, literally every day I see tons of comments from you guys telling me that this game's terrible now and that you're done playing. And as I see more and more talks about balance and updating the game, I'm starting to see that no matter what Ubi does, they're going to make some people upset, and I sort of think that's because of how the game is looked at. There are players who don't care about balance. They don't care about whether or not Centurion can open his opponents up or not. They like him because he looks and sounds cool. They don't care whether or not the best players in the game used to have staring matches, and they don't care about tournaments or anything like that. And I actually saw way more comments than I expected about the tournament comment that Ubi made. Some people feel that Ubi shouldn't only focus on the few players that are tournament level players, and that Ubi should focus on the more casual players because that's the majority of the player base. And I disagree with that. I think that with any fighting game, if you want to call for an fighting game, they should balance around the top players and should really listen to the top players, as they generally have the most time spent with the game. They know the ins and outs of the heroes. They know the best ways to fight against other heroes and what to look out for. If you balance around the everyday player who thinks that Orochi is broken because he's fast, then this game would be a complete joke as people got better. It'd get to the point where every duel would just be a staring match. And for you guys who have never been in a staring match, let me tell you that it is probably the most boring experience you can have in this game. I fought some people who have insane reaction times on PC and will block just about everything you throw at them. They'll parry everything. When I used to play Raider, I fought this Lawbringer on PC. That made me realize that I don't enjoy duels on PC and I enjoy playing on console a lot more, even though the game feels a lot worse. I had no idea what to do because he turtled so well. And I mean, honestly, what was the Lawbringer going to do? Was he going to attack me? And I mean, every match isn't like that on PC, but a lot of the fights are slowed down and can get pretty boring. And it makes you understand why faster, unreactable offense is really needed in this game. The crazy thing is, though, on the other side of that exact same coin, I don't really like the faster offense. I'm not a fan of the bash-based 400 millisecond offense that this game is heading towards, even though I 1000% understand why it's here. So, I mean, honestly, what can Ubisoft do? With the Wuling heroes, we see Ubisoft making an attempt to create heroes that aren't stupidly broken, but are great heroes and have tools to compete in any environment. The tools they have, though, are making people unhappy. And then with Aramusha, you see that they tried to please both the competitive crowd and the casual crowd at the same time, and that just didn't really work out. But that's not saying that they can't do anything either. There are still things that they can do in the meantime to make players happy. For example, yesterday I asked you guys if you thought that Jang Jun did a little too much damage, and out of about 20,000 votes, 75% of you said that you believe he did too much damage, and I agree with that. He's supposed to be a heavy hero, yet he's dancing around the map, dealing out insane damage. It doesn't help that his animations are just whack, and parrying him requires you to react to Jang Jun rather than the indicator. I think that literally changing his damage values will make everyone happy. You don't have to slow him down, you don't have to change how Sifu works, don't adjust his insane iframes, just change some numbers and you'll make everyone happy. Except for the 2% of people who said he doesn't do enough damage. I think that everyone wants all the heroes to be viable to some extent. At least I know I do. But I don't want any hero to only be viable because of a few things in his kit, if that makes any sense. I don't want anyone to shy away from a hero because they're complete garbage, but I also don't want to stop using heroes or not want to use a hero because they're only great at one thing. I love the way Conqueror looks. I love his armor, the shield, the executions, but I won't use him because I don't want to just play around my shield bash. To me, that's just boring. There are some heroes, however, that people don't mind at all. It seems that a lot of people don't really mind Gladiator. They think that Gladiator is the perfect hero, which honestly I don't agree with. You know, without his zone, Gladiator has a lot of problems. I also see Kinsei used as an example of perfect balance, since he's not too fast and has a ton of options while not being overbearing or feeling cheap. And I do really like Kinsei. I like using him, I enjoy watching him, and believe that overall he's a great hero, and to this day has received the best rework out of all the heroes. So if Yubi can do it right with Kinsei, how come they keep messing up on everyone else? Because you don't want every hero in this game to be a copy and paste of each other. Ubisoft has a decision to make. You either cater to the casual crowd or focus on the best players, and I really think they need to focus on the latter. They can't continue to try and focus on both. I'm just afraid that in choosing to focus on making this game really competitive and focusing on the few people who are truly that good, they're going to make the game less enjoyable for casual players. And I mean, we're already seeing it. I've really thought about this for a while and just never made a video on it because I never knew how to put it into words, but I mean, technically it needs to be done. The game's changed so much and will continue to change, from being a game where literally everything outside of a few outliers was able to be reacted to, and this forced better players to go out of their way to land damage, trying to exploit the game or cheese out some damage, and this was really highlighted in that Hero Series disaster. This game was in a horrible spot and was not ready for a big tournament. I mean, even today, even though the game is much better, I still don't think it's ready for a big tournament, but it is much closer than it was. I think that by season 11, the game will be ready. That is, if Yubi actually does what they say they'll do, but by that time, will anyone even care about a tournament? As I've said before, I don't have any hard numbers or anything, but I don't think Marching Fire really did anything to grow the player base. If anything, I think it's still slowly shrinking, at least on PC. I think the Black Friday sales will help out a bit because the game is yet again dirt cheap and is better than it ever has been, but what else is really going to bring anyone in? Sure, the Wulin heroes weren't everyone's thing aesthetically, so maybe that Warhammer hero will do something, but other than that, what's going to bring anyone in? What will make people want to play For Honor? I think CJ said it wonderfully in his last video. It's something that I never really thought about, and if you haven't seen his most recent video yet, I suggest you go watch it. It's a really good video. But he mentions that even though Yubi released this huge expansion for this game, no major media outlets, no gaming journalism companies, if you want to call it that, seem to really care. No one outside of the For Honor bubble talked about it. And when you look at it that way, it's sort of telling. I can't tell you how many ads I saw for Marching Fire leading up to its release, and even in the weeks after, but it really released with a whimper. And even the people who are still here and are playing the game are saying that the game feels worse, and I agree. The game feels really bad right now and hasn't been one of my favorite seasons. Yubi even showed For Honor at E3 and gave the game out for free after talking about how important the community was to the game, although that felt like a lie. And we saw what happened after the player base exploded. They all left. Literally almost everyone who downloaded the game for free left, on PC at least. Anyway, since For Honor isn't doing the best job at capturing new players and retaining them, then what's going to happen? It's clear that we as a community want balance, but the way Yubi is going to balance the game is turning people off, and I have no idea how to feel about that. I'm honestly conflicted. I really do believe that the Wulin were a good addition to the game. I think that they were necessary, as the game was getting really stale and desperately needed new content, but they've somehow made the game less fun to play on top of a fantastic breach mode. I've been releasing these little polls to see how you guys feel about the game recently, because they're really easy to get a bunch of responses about a topic in one place, and I really do appreciate all the feedback you guys have given me. It really makes it easier for me to understand how this community feels as a whole, And it's clear that the game isn't as fun for people, and it's because of the direction of the game. If UB keeps heading down this path where unreactable offense becomes the norm and bashes are more abundant, then I'm afraid people are just going to get even more fed up and leave. But honestly, what else can they do? They need to keep the game from being a complete turtle fest. And I mean, on console, that wasn't as big of a deal as it was on PC, but we'll never get separate balancing or 60 frames on console, so the game is going to continue to be balanced around PC. But to keep the game from being a turtle fest, then it's going to need less reactable offense. UB has no way of making everyone happy in the long run when heading in this direction, I think. But at the same time, they have to do something, because I mean, people aren't too happy with how the game is right now. Maybe when all the heroes are on the same level, if that ever happens, people will be more accepting of unreactable offense, because I mean, it will be a much larger part of the game. And if every hero has it, then it doesn't feel too cheesy. But right now, with only a few heroes having access to it, it can feel pretty frustrating. Although I will admit that you guys have been much more accepting recently, seeing 400 millisecond attacks as more of an annoyance rather than a game-breaking tool. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. As I said, this has been something that's been on my mind for a while now, and I've never really put it into words until now, so I decided to make a video about it. As usual, I do want to hear your opinion on it though, so talk to me down in the comments about anything I talked about in this video. Do you feel that UB is in a lose-lose situation here, or do you believe that as time goes on, people will accept unreactable offense? And as usual, if you agree with me or just like the video, feel free to leave a like and stuff, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.